The average monthly new car payment is over $700. The average new car payment is what? $700. All right, it's June 2023, and this month on Used Cars Made Easy, we're talking about how the average monthly new car payment in 2023 is more than my first mortgage payment. And we're going to talk about how new car prices can't stay this high forever. They can't, can they? They can't, right? Can they? They can't. Plus, used car prices are, well, they're on the way down, and we're going to talk about why that's actually okay. And even with overall used car market slowdowns, the average used car listing price right now is up a little bit over last month, which means if you're trying to sell a used car right now, you might be able to squeeze a couple $100 more. And finally, people buying new cars right now might notice that they are seeing some incentive pricing. Manufacturers are starting to introduce incentive pricing to combat record new car prices. Here's the moment you've all been waiting for: the best cars and the worst cars to sell June 2023. Top 5 cars to sell in June. These are your green light cars. If you've got one of these this month, we think you're going to get better offers and you're going to get more offers, especially on the Carmigo marketplace. Number 1, Toyota Camry. Number 2, Hyundai Tucson. Number 3, Toyota RAV4. 4, Kia Soul. Number 5, F-150 and half-ton trucks engine. Your red light cars. If you have one of these cars, I would wait a month if you can, or if you have to sell one of these cars this month, expect fewer offers, expect lower offers. Number 1, Mini Cooper. Number 2, Nissan Pathfinder. Number 3, luxury cars in general. Number 4, the Jeep Cherokee. And finally, number 5, the Hyundai Santa Fe Sport, and then just those mid-size crossover sport trims in general. Now that we've looked through the red light and the green light cars for June, let's take a little bit closer look at each of those models to see why we think they're going to do better this month. First up, the Toyota Camry. It always sells well. It's a safe car. It's a reliable car. It's a car that lasts for a while. It's easy to maintain. It's got good fuel efficiency, pretty comfortable, comes with some nice features. Like the Toyota Camry just checks the boxes for a lot of people. They, on average, got about 14 or 15 offers each. They got a red light, green light score of 852. The way I do the red light, green light scores is a really imprecise equation in which I take the sales ratio and multiply it by the number of cars that were actually sold. All right, so the Camry got an 852 on my very unofficial red light, green light score. We sold well over half of the cars that we listed, and then also we just did a lot of volume. So Toyota Camry sold well. Second car is the Hyundai Tucson. We sold almost every single Hyundai Tucson we listed. We didn't do quite as much volume as the Camry, so it's got the red light, green light score of 736. Not that that really means anything to anybody but me. So if you're thinking about selling a Hyundai Tucson and you list it on the Carmigo marketplace for around $22,000, if you list it for like $21,000, it will sell. Okay, it may not, but chances are it'll sell. Looks very good. The number 3 car is the Toyota RAV4. RAV4s always sell well. Owners like them. They keep them for a long time. They usually resell pretty well. We sold almost as many as we listed. They got an average of 22 offers. I'm gonna head on down to Kroger and get me a big old bag of crow nuggies because I've got to eat some crow on this one. Kia Soul. Prepare the crow. The Kia Soul sold great. That's right, in May, the Kia Soul, we listed 7 on the Carmigo marketplace, and we sold 7 on the Carmigo marketplace. We sold them for right at market value. And to everyone who sold a Kia Soul on the Carmigo marketplace last month, congratulations. Finally, our number 5 green light car is the Ford F-150 and just half-ton trucks in general. We've talked about half-ton trucks all spring. Looks like we're going to talk about them all summer. I'm going to do it again. We sold well over half of the half-ton trucks we listed on the Carmigo marketplace last month. So if you got a Ford F-150, if you got a Chevy Silverado, if you got a GMC Sierra, if you've got a Dodge Ram, it's a good time to sell one of those trucks. We're going to get into the red light cars. These are the cars that we don't think are going to sell that well this month. It is not because we don't like these cars. It is not because we don't like the people who drive these cars. It is simply because, first up, the Mini Cooper. We listed a handful of Mini Coopers and we sold 0 Mini Coopers. They weren't bad cars. They weren't asking for a crazy amount of money. They just didn't sell. The Nissan Pathfinder is another car. We listed a handful, not a bunch, listed a handful, didn't sell. Didn't get offers. A couple of these were listed at a much higher price, and so the buyers were just like, I'm not even gonna make an offer. But I think the Nissan Pathfinder is just not super hot right now. I think the Pathfinder is just a little bit bigger and a little bit more expensive than what a lot of people want to pay right now. And the people who are trying to sell a used Pathfinder are in, a lot more money on it. And so it's just not a great market for a used Pathfinder right now. Luxury sedans, just not selling that well right now across the category. I'm talking about the 3 Series, the ID4, the GLC, the A7, the Q5, the XT5, the 5 Series, the GLE, the Teslas, the Model 3. They're not selling that well. People aren't spending a ton of money on cars right now because cars are already really expensive. And so people just aren't trying to pay for a super expensive car in a super expensive market. So if you're trying to sell a used luxury sedan, it's a hard market to sell them in right now. Last month I said Jeeps were selling great and they should continue to. Jeeps in general have been. The Cherokee has not. I'm talking about all of the Cherokee family of Jeep. This car has not sold super well. This is the Grand Cherokee, the regular Cherokee, all those different Cherokee models. When you're at the zoo, do you ever think about how the exhibit always says this is the greater Flamingo? It doesn't even say like the Grand Flamingo or like the Great Flamingo. It's the greater Flamingo. This Flamingo is greater than the other flamingos, which that implies the existence of a lesser flamingo. My sister-in-law said that to me one time. What about the lesser flamingo? So yeah, the Grand Cherokee. Its little brother must feel bad. I, for one, stand with the lesser flamingo. I stand with the Jeep not as Grand Cherokee. Overall, going into June, used car sales are down and prices may be up a little bit compared with previous months. They are down compared with last year, but that's okay. The used car market looks to have continued its return to the mean after a brief pause this spring. So we had record prices last year, and then those prices dropped, as they do. When we talk about free market capitalism, this is what we're talking about. People still want to sell their car for those old prices. Those old prices aren't coming back. They probably never will, because that's how markets work. They don't go up forever. Steph Curry even misses shots from time to time. The more stable a market is, the more confidence people can have in their planning for the future and decision making, and that's good. So as the used car market goes back down, it will eventually steady out and it will hop back on its normal course like it has throughout time, just kind of keeping up with new car prices and the value of the dollar. So sales are down, inventory's up, but for whatever reason, the listing price of used cars went up this month compared with the previous months. It's down compared with last year. The market overall is down. Down is up, supply is demand, up is down. I don't even know where I am right now. Even though the market's been going back down, remember, it was out of control. We were selling tons of cars and they were selling for way too much money. So things are getting back under control. Used sales and prices held pretty solidly over the last month, especially considering the volatility in the market that came with the pandemic and all the supply chain shortages. And this really steady return to the mean is the best we can hope for. That's why it's okay that used car prices are going down, because a steady market is going to benefit everyone, and the slower that prices go back down to a steady market, the better for everyone else who's trying to sell a car right now. Earlier I mentioned the average used car listing price is up, and it is currently $26,969. But going back to last year, it's lower than it was. It has been continuing to drop. I expect that trend to continue. That's good news. If you're selling right now, you might be able to squeeze out $100 or $200 more. If you're holding out for prices like we had last year, you may be holding out for forever. In fact, used car prices will probably never be that high again unless they just quit making new cars altogether, which is kind of what happened last time. They quit making new cars. And as we said earlier, inventory for used cars is back up. It's not quite as high as it was before the big boom, but it's getting close. There's a 46-day supply for cars that are more than $35,000, so that means they're turning a lot slower than those cheaper cars. With vehicle prices still near all-time highs, both used and new, people are just reaching for the cheaper stuff. And that reinforces, if you're selling a used car and you're trying to sell an expensive used car, it's going to be a lot harder to sell than a less expensive used car. Cox Automotive predicted that in May we would see a 20% increase in new car sales, and their predictions were beaten. That bold 20% increase prediction was not enough. I totally didn't expect new car sales to go up even more with prices holding at all-time highs. They're pumping out tons of cars, right? So there's plenty available. They're super expensive, and sales are going up. People are buying even more. I didn't expect that, but I'm not the expert. Charlie Chesbro, on the other hand, over at Cox Automotive, is the expert, and he broke it down in a way that I had not considered. New vehicle sales will show strong gains this month over last year's levels, and on the surface, this is a bit surprising. Interest rates are substantially higher than a year ago, as are vehicle prices. and yet sales will increase year over year. The reason? Vehicle shoppers now have a much better chance of finding something that fits their needs. Pent-up demand, held back by limited product availability last year, is now being fulfilled as inventory levels improve around the country. So, inventories bounce back, right? We've been talking about that. New car inventory is bouncing back more and more each month. But the thing I didn't consider is sure, there were Camrys available, but were there blue Camrys? So now people can get exactly what they want because there's not a wait list. They're not just trying to crank out base level Camrys to meet demand. Now they can, fulfill the more specific demands. And so people are buying new cars because they can get exactly what they want for the first time in a couple years. All right, so here's a little bit more from Cox Automotive senior economist Charlie Chesbrough. Clearly, pent-up demand is being unleashed. How much pent-up demand exists is the question. We still expect sales to slow in the second half as economic headwinds, particularly rising interest rates, grow. We don't think new car prices are going to stay this high, and we don't think new car sales are going to stay this high. It's just a little bit of a curiosity. How long are people going to ride this wave? Average listing price for a new vehicle returned to above $47,000. That brings the typical monthly payment for a new vehicle over $700 in 2023. My first house was less than $700. On the up note, we are finally seeing some incentives. So if you are buying a new car, make sure you're checking for manufacturer incentive. The average incentive is about $1,700 per vehicle. So not all vehicles have incentives, some have way more than that, right? But if you average it all out, incentive pricing is accounting for about $1,700 per vehicle. So to wrap things up, the Greenlight cars this month, if you have one of these, you can probably get more offers and better offers and sell quicker. The Toyota Camry, the Hyundai Tucson, the Toyota RAV4, the Kia Soul, and then the Ford F-150 or just half-ton trucks in general. Your red light cars that are going to get fewer offers and lower offers are your Mini Cooper, your Nissan Pathfinder, luxury sedans in general, Jeep, Cherokee, Grand Cherokee, all of those. Not Jeeps, but Cherokee, Grand Cherokee. And then Santa Fe Sports, as well as just any other sport trim, mid-size crossover. New car prices are moving into mortgage prices, but I don't think they're going to hold that high forever. Used car prices are on the way down. That's okay too. And then even with the overall market slowing, the current used car average listing price is actually up just a little bit. So right now is not a terrible time to sell a used car. And finally, for those new car purchasers out there, we are seeing some incentive pricing. So we are starting to see some savings.